Hello, hello, and welcome to TipTea Podcast. I'm Robert Dodd, and I'll be your lovely stewardess on this red-eye flight to hell. Flying us tonight in this lovely Boeing 737 cockpit is your captain, Layla Ziadich.
Also a registered voter.
Yeah, girl, if you weren't a registered voter, I would fucking whoop your ass.
I wasn't a registered voter. I feel like I would never have any room to complain about anything that I've been complaining about for 4 years.
I mean, you could. I would just be rolling my eyes into my fucking brain.
Your brain. Yeah, I feel that. Well, here we find ourselves, Robert. We're
election night.
Yes. Woo. Wait, you guys hear that? That's the sound of a half full glass.
Shit. I just I went to stir my cup and just spilled all over myself because I'm a fucking mess.
I'm going to say some of us are a little more excited than others. Okay. I hope you noticed that I said that my glass was half full. We're at the part of the night where there's still optimism running through my veins.
Oh, shit. What are we drinking tonight?
So I actually ordered from one of my favorite restaurants, Girl on the Goat. I'm drinking the Ring of Fire. It's like a spicy tequila cocktail. It's fabulous. And I just ordered myself a fat dinner to enjoy. What are you drinking?
I am drinking what is it called? It's called a Bit O' Honey gimlet type thing. It's fucking delicious. But yeah, and I had a margarita earlier today, so I'm living my best life.
I was going to say, are these all made in your house, or are you supporting some restaurants in your area?
No, I'm doing Silver Lining cocktail drinks. They're like a delivery service, which...
Hell yeah, little plug for them. Love to see it.
Look, I will give a hand job, a blow job, whatever I need to get. If anybody from Silver Lining Cocktails is listening to this shit, I want you as a fucking sponsor. I will do what I need to do. I will get on these fucking knees. So if you're listening, you know where to find me.
You're this is my formal proposal.
This is our meeting. My pitch.
Play this at the fucking pitch meeting. All right. So you just checked in with your husband, Tim. What are the updates? While we were doing an interview just now, we were missing out on a lot of the election. So does Tim have any highlights and or lowlights for us?
Oh, so let's see. Mitch McConnell is projected the winner. He can go suck a dick and burn in hell. Who else won? Lindsey Graham.
To say about Mitch McConnell, but we can bring that up in a little.
Oh yeah, in just a second. Lindsey Graham won too, and he can join the handbasket that Mitch is in, and they can fucking jerk each other off all night.
Okay,
while they're burning in hell. So yeah, go ahead, or lay it on me about Mitch, because I got a couple things.
I was going to say, my group chat was lit at the beginning before we jumped on recording tonight, and somehow we got on the conversation of obviously Mitch. I think it might have been around the time that Mitch actually was the proposed winner for his race. There seemed to be some lack of knowledge, that he had had a really bad bruising incident. I don't know what the cause of that is. You might know.
I know exactly what it's from. But the cause of his hands
talk about what it actually is, and then I'll talk about what it actually looks like. And I feel like it's an omen.
It actually looks like, so I believe that Mitch was doing a search for the horcruxes.
Bitch, you took it out of my fucking mouth. He touched a horcrux.
He touched a horcrux. And I mean, that's literally the only sound thing that I could. He looks like Dumbledore and he fucking touched a horcrux and now his ass is cursed. So hopefully he will die a slow, painful death very soon.
Jesus. My question to you is, as somebody in the healthcare profession, do you know how to articulate what actually happened to him, or do we not care?
I don't even care. Honestly, I haven't researched it.
Yes, under Latin in the Grey's Anatomy book, it says here, touched a horcrux. So
I saw his hands, but somebody at work was apparently saying like his lips are all fucked up too. I don't know what that's all about. I mean, only him and Jesus know. So
him and Satan. But yeah, so that's my 2-bit about him. Lindsey Graham. I think Lindsey Graham, honestly, is just a pussy. At least
he's the biggest fucking dickwad pussy bitch.
Get it, honey. Get it out.
I just love the whole thing that he was talking about, when we were getting the Supreme Court Justice Amy Coathanger Barrett.
You mean Amy, blessed be the fruit Barrett?
Yeah, that bitch. When she was getting nominated, when people were saying, but didn't you say when Obama was getting his pick that if you were trying to do the same thing to call you out on it and blah, blah, blah. And then his response was, well, the last Supreme Court nomination that Trump tried to do, you guys were being dicks about it. So now we're going to be dicks. Fuck you. Like, Jesus. Fuck you. You're a piece of shit.
I know. I don't know. I just feel like people like him, especially Mitch McConnell, are toxic to society. Like, not left, not right, like society in general as a whole. So I think he stems from an evil, evil place.
Lindsey Graham is not smart enough. Like, he's just a what's the word? Like somebody that's not in charge, but just like a worker bee or whatever. He's not the mastermind behind anything. He just does what he's fucking told.
A puppet, a little puppet.
Yes. Mitch, however, however much I hate this man, and he is a horrible man, however much despise I have for him, I do have to give him props. Like, he is a political genius. He's a fucking mastermind. When he dies, people will look back at his time in Congress as a fucking legacy. I mean, he has done some things that nobody has done. I mean, however evil he is a fucking genius. So I will say that, but at the end of the day, he's still a piece of shit. So yeah, I mean, these people are playing, it's a game. I mean, and we're the people that are being played. So
that's right. I mean, he adjourned the Senate until the 9th of November, and still no COVID relief. So, he's got his job back now. We can just wait and see if Trump will be a part of that picture or not.
So, to kind of give our listeners kind of a background. So originally we were going to do this episode last week. We were going to record. Well, our guests had to kind of reschedule due to a prior commitment. And here we are recording on fucking election night. So to be completely honest with you guys, full disclosure, my butthole is clenched as fuck. On a scale from 1 to Annalise Keating, how anxious are you, Layla?
Why does that name sound so familiar?
From How to Get Away with Murder.
Oh, okay. I was like, why does Keating sound so familiar? It's been a roller coaster today. I'm not going to lie. I've gone through all the highs, all the lows, the projections on multiple fronts, from like political analysts have said that, Biden will most likely win. Now, that's just projections. We don't know for sure. I personally am mostly anxious because of what I foresee playing out in front of us, meaning that, we're probably not going to know the full election results this evening because we live in an unprecedented time where there have been so many mail-in ballots, early voting, etc. So what I think is going to happen is that possibly Trump will be the projected winner for this evening, and then moving forward for the next, I hope, just a couple of days, but we don't know. It could be weeks. There could be a chance that Biden, gets some votes through the mail-in ballots, and then Trump tries to claim fraud. And then through Trump's nomination of Amy Coney Barrett, then he recommends that it takes it to the Senate. And then what's the Senate going to do? They're going to, who knows, but somehow they're going to pull some weight, and they're essentially going to say, yes, we think that these are fraudulent votes, X, Y, and Z. Now, do I hold a lot of regard for the judges? I mean, like, in terms of, do these people who have worked and served as judges or in the legal system, I should say, for most of their lives, do I hope that they aren't going to just be swayed by one political leader's opinions and or motivations? I hope not. I hope that they actually stick to what they know, which is the Constitution, and that's what they're supposed to uphold. But then again, it is in Donald Trump's best interest to put people on the Senate on the Supreme Court that, I think I've been saying Senate this whole time.
You said Senate once. You're fine.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Put people on the Supreme Court who are going to back him, essentially. So now that we have a conservative majority on the Supreme Court, what's going to happen is there's going to be some touch and go, and they're going to be called to judge who is the actual winner of this presidential race. And that, to me, is anxiety inducing. So that was just a really long way of saying this is what makes me anxious.
No, I agree completely. And here's the thing. If that's the case and Donald Trump is elected through the Supreme Court, I've never been I've always been a supporter of protesting. I've always been, at the end of the day, rioting and looting is maybe not the best way to get your point across, but I just think it's funny that the same people that complain and say, when people riot or loot or, get crazy, it's so bad and so negative. And my argument is, remember the fucking Boston Tea Party? I mean, remember how our nation was founded? It wasn't we weren't just peacefully protesting. And at the end of the day, if somebody feels like they are desperate and have no other choice and they're backed into a corner and feel like the only way that they can express themselves is by fucking destroying shit, I'm okay. I'm okay with it because, that's how shit gets seen. That's how shit gets done. If Trump wins through that way, I will be protesting. I will be in the fucking streets. Because democracy, if that happens, I just feel like democracy has fucking failed us. Now, if he legit wins and it's, if he legitimately wins, I will be depressed about it. Don't get me wrong. I will be fucking depressed. But I will accept it. And I think the only way that I will be 100% okay with Trump winning is if by some miracle the Democrats were able to secure the House and Senate. I think I would be okay with Trump.
And just stop every maneuver that he would try to make.
Yeah, because you ain't gonna get shit done. You ain't gonna get shit done. If that's the case. So in that world, I would be okay. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty anxious about this shit. But
I just want to say, to your point, Martin Luther King Jr. said a long time ago, a riot is the language of the unheard. And that has always stuck with me.
Yeah.
Ever since the unfortunate passing of George Floyd. That was something that I read intensely about. And when I read that quote specifically, it just, I don't know, it just made so much sense to me in terms of acknowledgement of like just this awful suppression that exists in our culture and in our society and has existed regardless of, you know, let's say gays now being allowed to be married or, you know, minorities allowed to vote or women allowed to vote, right?
Yeah.
Like it always took a crowd. It always took a massive movement to, you know, then get the ball rolling into progression. So if anything were to be said about what's happening now today, I mean, you can look at the polls. This is like the highest voter turnout in decades. There's something to be said, right? There's something to be said about everything that we've experienced in the last 4 years. And although you and I agree that it has divided our country in ways that, you know, we've never seen before, it's also brought so many more people to the front lines.
Yeah. No, I mean voter turnout has been fucking amazing.
Right.
That's how it needs to be.
Exactly. I was reading some shit. I'm guilty of it too, though. Honestly, like when I was back living in Missouri and I had the opportunity to vote, like, I'm not going to lie to you. I was way less involved than I am now. I was way less educated. And, you know, I can't I just couldn't be held accountable to make an educated decision, right? But now I feel like it's my civic duty. I understand the importance of the vote, and it's taken something as ridiculous as fucking Donald Trump to really open my eyes. So, yeah. I mean, what I'm seeing is a bunch of little tiny silver linings. You know, I'm just one of many people who have gotten out there today. Well, I voted early, but who have voiced their opinions.
Yeah. I
want to bring up Kanye West real quick, if you don't mind.
Oh my gosh, I fucking go ahead. I think I know exactly what you're going to fucking talk about.
Well, we're going to talk about his tweet.
Okay, I did not see his tweet, but go ahead.
So I can just pull up his tweet verbatim. So just so everyone knows, Kanye West was running for president. If you didn't know, he was doing that. He did not necessarily make it onto the ballot for many states, but in other states he did. So that's just a little background. Joe Rogan interviewed him very recently. You can check that out on Joe Rogan's podcast, but he goes on to talk about...
Hold on, time out. Before you get into that, I want to know, what are your thoughts about Joe Rogan?
I love Joe Rogan.
I fucking hate him.
Okay, that's okay. That's allowed. I really do enjoy it.
I take it back. I don't necessarily, I don't hate him. I just do not. I think he's a tool, and I think that he brings these people on his podcast that are, you know, quote unquote, like, I don't want to say woke, because they're fucking definitely not woke, but just like different like out there perspectives, like controversial people, and getting their ideas out. And, you know, one would argue that we do need to hear different ideas than our own, right? Like we need to hear not just from our own liberal people, but people that have different perspectives than us. And
like Alex Jones.
Oh, fuck no.
I mean, he's given him a platform several times.
And I definitely think that we do need people's different perspectives, and we do need to be, at the end of the day, all need to be able to sit down together and have a thoughtful, logical conversation on a number of things. What isn't okay is having these people on that are just spewing these horrible fucking things and just are awful human beings, and you're just giving them prime time and really an outlet to express their fucking shit. And I forget who the guy was that he had on recently, but he's fucking garbage and was like one of the people that no. It was, hold on. I'm going to see if I can fucking Google it. He is like a conspiracy guy.
Oh, he's got a bunch of guys that are like that.
Yeah, but it was just recently. Hold on. I'm sure it's in the fucking news. Fuck. But he was just saying like, this guy said that Sandy Hook, the shooting was, like a conspiracy, like it didn't happen. And like to have somebody on there fucking talking that has been known to say that and like go to these families and say that, you know, it's a whole conspiracy is just fucking disgusting. And I don't know. I just don't like that he brings these people on that are spreading this hurtful, hateful rhetoric. You know what I mean?
I mean, I definitely agree that there is some harm to giving a platform to those who have possibly violent and or challenging views. Hold on. I kind of see Joe as kind of like, well, one, I love him as a stand-up comedian. He's kind of brash, and that's what I like in a comedian. Yeah. He's also kind of one of those like tough guys who, you know, stands by what he believes. But he the way that he like presents his platform and his show is, you know, you're going to get both left and right and in the middle and then far out into space viewpoints. Yeah. And he's going to just, you know, let the people say what they need to say, but then he's also going to be inquisitive and ask his own questions. And yes, he will align, but yes, he'll call them out if he thinks it's ridiculous as well. And so it is in that way, I think, a positive environment because it's kind of thought provoking. It's almost like a philosophical, like lecture hall, if you will. Like you'll get 3 hours of an episode with him, and then you'll get to listen to these leaders of industry. Like I brought up Elon Musk earlier. Like he has some controversial perspectives, right? And so Joe gives him a platform to talk about that and, you know, smoke weed with him, which is, you know, not always something that you're going to be able to find in like mass media environments. So it seems more down to earth. It seems more real than like, I don't know, me as a viewer or listener, I will trust that platform, like Joe's platform, to make my own decisions about people versus nowadays when you're getting these like filtered media outlets like far left like CNN or far right like fucking Fox News. You know what I mean? Like that is them giving you their perspective. You're allowed to make your own assumptions and think critically, which I think is super important as a listener. So
no, I definitely agree with that. And you know, when you were kind of talking about that kind of made me think of, I really love Howard Stern.
I actually really enjoy him too. Yeah.
And I love Howard Stern, and, you know, he does bring in controversial guests, and I don't know. I just think that, and the difference between him and Howard Stern is I feel like Howard Stern's a bigger ball buster.
Yeah, I feel like he pokes the bear, right? Yeah, whereas Joe, I feel like Joe brings the bear out of the cage and lets it run wild for a little bit.
Well, yeah, and lets him talk.
Other times it's just him smoking weed and drinking coffee with other comedians.
I don't know. I just think it's kind of I think it's kind of dangerous, like having some of the people that he's had talk on there and like give them a platform. At the end of the day, I don't like it. And like, I feel like, say Howard Stern were to do the same thing or have that same guest on, I just feel like he does a better job at being more, I don't know, calling people shit out on their things, making, you know, if he's going to have a controversial guest on and talk to them, he knows that they're controversial and he's going to poke and prod and, you know, call them out on their shit, make fun of them. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I just really don't like Joe Rogan's show. Now, Joe Rogan himself, he's a all right person, I guess. Whatever.
That's okay. You don't have to love him.
Okay.
I want to go back to Kanye.
Yes.
Because what I was saying earlier was that Kanye so he was on that show talking about his platform, which ironically his platform is vote for me because I am I'm like God's messenger. So that's when I stopped listening to the 3-hour episode. That being said, Kanye's tweet today. Yep, sure. Kanye's tweet today says, God is good, smiley face. Today I am voting for the first time in my life for the president of the United States, and it's for someone I truly trust. ... Me. American flag, white dove emoji. So this man, who is on some of the ballots, has never voted before today. Let that sink in. Good. I'm glad we all let that absorb. Also, if I may, just for fun, are you familiar with that song, You're Such a Fucking Hoe by Kanye and Lil Pump?
I don't think so.
Well, it was super popular like a year ago. Lil Pump was basically like featured on that one song. And he's like with Kanye. And he found out that Joe Biden was going to tax, like one of his platforms was that he was going to tax the rich, like 34% or something like that. And Lil Pump being like, I don't know if this is the reason, but probably being like newer money, was like, oh, hell no, Trump forever. Trump invited him to his like latest pep rally. And he called him onto the stage and was like, everybody welcome Lil Pimp. And his name is fucking Lil Pump.
I give up.
I can't tell you the amount of pure joy that caused me.
I give up.
I feel like every day with this whole situation, left, right, in the middle, is like a giant episode of what's that fucking show on HBO? Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh my!
You know what I mean?
I
use
cannot
that fucking
wait.
song every time something like awkward happens like that.
Yeah. I will say I cannot fucking wait for a new season of Curb Your Enthusiasm, like with 2020. Like, I can't wait. I can't.
Shit.
He's like, can you imagine Larry, like going around with a fucking mask? Like, well, he won't.
He won't. Or he'll like not go out.
Yeah. So I can't wait. The hilarity that will ensue on that fucking season will be gold. Fuck.
Boy. I think we're both exhausted mentally and physically.
I'm very mentally exhausted. So our listeners, what do we got for them tonight? We will be interviewing 2 burlesque performers from New York City. So because of this, I thought it would be a good idea to just kind of briefly share some, some striptease stories, stripper stories. Do you want to go first, Layla?
Well, I mean, mine isn't like, you're part of one of my stories, which I'm sure you'll chat about a little bit. I feel like it's more your story to tell. But I haven't been to many strip clubs in my time, honestly, not many at all. But my first encounter, I actually was in New Orleans at some hole-in-the-wall bar. And one of my former managers, who we were all hanging out at the time, mind you, this is the same person during that, 2 episodes or 1 episode ago where I talked about his teeth falling out. This is the same person. He taught me my first lap dance. So, I got to go back into the champagne room with this lovely woman. She was very pretty and nice. And I, at that point, was like, obviously it's New Orleans. I had been drinking, like me and my friends, we're wild all day. So I was just trying to be like respectful. You know what I mean? I was like sitting with my hands in my lap. And I was like, you can do it. Like, you're doing great, sweetie. Like, totally not knowing what to do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I was just like, okay, like, thank you so much. Like, you're doing great. And then I was just like, okay, have a great night. And then I like handed her money instead of like putting it in places that you're supposed to put it. I don't know. I was very awkward. So that was my first experience. My second experience was with you, and you can go ahead and lead into that one.
So that was my bachelorette party in Chicago. We rented a stripper and had him come to the hotel.
I love that you can just rent a stripper.
I mean, yeah, rent. Bitch, I'm paying you by the hour.
Yeah.
And tips.
Yeah. And go on with your story. I have a few tidbits to add.
So yeah, I mean, he came over. Was he dressed like a cop?
Yes. And he did bring like a little boom box.
I love it. Can you imagine him like walking into the hotel?
Ever. They were like, oh no.
Oh no.
We were at a pretty nice hotel downtown.
We were at the Hilton.
Yeah.
So yeah, he came in, he gave us a show. I wish we could put on Instagram our photos from the show.
Yeah, insert clip here, here, and here. Maybe we can find a way to creatively edit, but I mean, Robert did receive many lap dances.
Many lap dances. Penis was all in my face.
He rubbed it on me, and I didn't know that they were allowed to do that. So that scared me a little bit. But what did you say about me being in the back corner drinking my drink? Oh my God,
there's a picture of you. And
this makes me so happy.
I'm in a chair. The stripper is in a chair on top of me. And Layla is in the corner. And she's sipping her cocktail, looking at the whole situation like, what's her name? Kim Kardashian's mom. Chris.
I'm literally like in a little black dress and heels, just like sipping on a cocktail in the background of Robert getting like the nastiest lap dance that I've ever seen. And I'm just like, once again, I'm like, you're doing great, sweetie.
Make mama proud. Like, that's what that looks like.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I mean, it was a great time. And then he came back, he went to the bathroom for a minute, and then he came back and he had those little underwear on, and his dinghy was like,
did you just say dinghy?
Dinghy, yeah.
Oh my God, you're so cute.
I'm sorry, should I say his big throbbing cock?
No, because I didn't feel that it was like that, but
big, juicy, fat cock. I'm so sorry for the listeners that I'm making uncomfortable right now. No, I'm not. A big throbbing cock.
Okay. Now I'm uncomfortable. Louder for the people in the back, please.
But yeah, it was a great time. I mean, we tipped him good.
We did. At one point, I was so drunk that I was upset that Robert did not have enough money to hand out. So I proceeded to go down to the lobby, like wobble down to the lobby in my like, Kris Jenner outfit. And I proceeded to get as much money as I could out of the ATM. And then I had to go to the front desk and I was like, excuse me, may I please have some ones? Like in exchange for all this money. I was so mad. And I was mad at some of your friends who were with us for not being as enthusiastic as we were, but that's okay. It's not for everyone. Can't judge them too hard.
It's not. And, at the end of the day, we had a great time. I
thought about that when you invited them, but I'm just saying.
You can't please everybody, but I fucking was pleased, and it was a great
honestly,
time.
Your opinion was the only one that mattered in that moment. And as long as you had a good time, it was worth it.
I mean, it was great.
Do you have any other stripper stories besides that?
No, I mean, when I go to female strip clubs, I think that they I'm a magnet. Like, they love me. I just look sweet and innocent. And so they just, I don't know. I mean, I guess they feel comfortable coming up to me and touching me. And I remember one stripper came up to me, this girl stripper, and she grabbed my hands and put my hands on her breasts and then had me put my hands down her. And I wish somebody would have taken a video of my fucking face because I was shook.
Yeah.
Pure shook. So yeah, I mean, it's always a good time. I always feel just a little awkward. I mean, it's a woman's body. I don't have much experience with that. So it's,
are you a gold star? Is that okay to ask?
Yeah, no, I am a gold star. I've made out with girls, but that's not doing it. So
That ain't doing the damn thing.
I am a gold star and I'm proud.
Yes, honey.
I'm Robert and I am a gold star and I'm proud.
Wow. You sound like you belong in Missouri.
That was my 2024 campaign.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit is right.
So, I guess we can take a little break, rearrange our wigs, and
you need to fill up my glass.
When we come back, we will be chatting with our burlesque girls. Hello, TipTea listeners. During this break, you'd normally be hearing a little commercial about us looking for sponsors. Don't worry, you'll probably hear that again. But I just wanted to take this time to directly talk with you. 2020 has been a rough year. In some way, shape, or form, you have had to adjust to a new reality. As if COVID wasn't a big enough issue this year, we had the presidential election. I've said it before on the show, but if you don't know, I've recently started seeking counseling. And one of the big things I've been working on is having agency over my emotions. Normally, when we set goals for ourselves, we say things like, I want to stop feeling angry, or I want to stop worrying or being so anxious. This isn't necessarily the right thing to say because in reality, we don't have control over our emotions. What we do have control over is what we do with these emotions. My point for bringing this up is that it's perfectly okay to be anxious. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be angry or overwhelmed. What we have to realize is while we don't have control over our emotions, we do have agency over what we do with these emotions. So, in conclusion, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling angry or sad, I want you to take a deep 3-second breath and ask yourself this. How am I going to respond to this emotion? What am I going to do with this emotion? And hopefully, taking that 3-second deep breath to recenter yourself gives you the clarity you need to conquer the task or day like a boss. Thanks for listening to us and stay safe. Welcome back to TipTea Podcast. Joining Layla and I tonight are two very special burlesque performers hailing from New York City. So let's start off with introductions from the both of you. Tell us your name, your stage name, and a little bit about yourself and what your favorite alcoholic beverage of choice is.
Hi, everyone. My name is Foxy, Belle Afriq. I am a burlesque performer based in Brooklyn, New York. I'm also a drag king, Uncle Freak, and pop producer of Mad Deep. My favorite alcoholic beverage would be tequila. Straight up tequila neat.
Love tequila.
I am La Pobresita. Oh yeah, sorry. I'm La Pobresita, also obviously from Brooklyn currently. Foxy and I co-produce Deep together. My favorite alcoholic beverage of choice. I also like tequila. I like mezcal. I guess generally outside of tequila, dark liquors, because I've learned my lesson with vodka. It's a no for me.
Same, girl.
Hello?
Love the dark. I'm an equal opportunity. I love the white. I love the black. I love it all.
Well, thank you both for being here. Robert and I just want to kind of get this conversation started, and I don't know much about burlesque in general, and I would love to learn more. And I would love to learn more about both of you. Alicia and I know each other a little bit, but how did you two meet?
Foxy here. We met in 2017 when we both took was it a summer class? Was it a spring class? I don't remember. It was before, sometime in the summer, like late summer, we took a class. We were one of, I think, 8 to 10 students for Brown Girls Burlesque based in here in New York City, which is a burlesque troupe that features all Black performers. So they had this burlesque dance class, which was like a 6-week program. And I signed up for maybe the first 2 weeks. And I think, if I remember correctly, La Pobresita and I were in a group number. And I had to, what did I have to do? I couldn't keep up the choreography. And so that's how we met. We met through Brown Girls Burlesque.
That's amazing. I'm sure a few of our listeners have either never heard of burlesque or have never really been to a burlesque show. We have a pretty wide audience. Can you explain to us, like in a very layman's terminology, like what is burlesque and how would you say its difference is in a performance art versus like drag or theater?
Well, burlesque is very much an ancient, to me, I think it's ancient. Burlesque has existed for quite some time. It's not anything new, but I think it has become more popular since the late 90s, early 2000s. But burlesque, the timeline for burlesque starts way back in the 1800s, where they would hire like a beautiful singer or performer to dance to a band or something. And it sort of evolved into taking off items of clothing, but it was for very exclusive parties. It was not mainstream. And then it sort of, in the 1900s, it sort of became popular again in Paris, but not so much in America. So fast forwarding recently, I think burlesque, people are starting to recognize it as a necessary body movement art form. It's not just us taking off items of clothing. It's not supposed to be sexual in any way. It is, in fact, every single time somebody's taking something off, or every single time someone is performing burlesque, they're telling a story with their body. And I say burlesque is for everybody. It's for every single person. I mean, the fact is, burlesque is mainstream because of certain folks who are sort of the top tier performers who are always booked all the time. But in New York City, there's actually like a really huge group of women who perform burlesque. We just don't get booked as much. So a lot of us end up having our own productions or starting our own shows in hopes of attracting folks to burlesque and having them learn a little bit about it and understanding it's not this salacious thing. It's actually a performative art performance.
So kind of tell me, traditionally a burlesque show would be at a club or like a private space, but because of the pandemic, how have you guys had to like adapt to that? I mean, you guys are still performing, but in like what ways have you guys had to kind of deal with not doing that necessarily indoors?
So when the pandemic first started, we were doing shows on Instagram, as a lot of performers were and still do. And then had to pivot to Zoom because so many people would report us, or people would like jump on and be creepy. There was like one time this guy got on and he was just like very heavily breathing. Like he requested to join the live and his screen is black and he was just like heavily breathing and then was like telling Foxy to send her number. Like it was just, Instagram is not the place.
What the fuck?
It was so weird.
It was very weird. But then, I mean, honestly, then we pivoted to Zoom, and Zoom, there's even like there's still an opportunity for weird people, and there was weird people. It's really hard because, like, in a bar, you're able to at least a little bit more maybe rein the crowd in. Like your energies maybe felt a little bit more versus like yelling at someone through the phone to like please stop playing tic-tac-toe on our Zoom, which someone did. But so like that has been weird, and also in general it's so much different. Like Foxy was saying, like we're trying to tell a story here, and it's so much different telling that story in front of other people and like feeling them receiving it versus like being in your room and your cat jumps on the bed and you're doing it to like your iPhone. Like it's weird. But that's where a lot of shows have been. And then, yeah, have done a couple in-person shows since that has been sort of allowed, sort of like on a speakeasy level in New York. Mm-hmm. But that's weird too, because you know, people are sitting there in a mask. Are you smiling? Are you scowling at me? I don't know. Like, I like to do a lap dance, and that's inappropriate during a airborne pandemic. So it's just been really weird, and it's been really a hard thing to transition through.
So,
but we working on it.
My next question was, if you had to take online versus in person, which one would be sexier? But it sounds like from what you're saying, definitely in person is your preferred method.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
I think another thing about in person too is if like, especially like burlesque or it's often something that's like a pop-up in somebody else's event or party, or you're like on, like, this isn't a burlesque show, but you're doing burlesque in this lineup of everybody else doing whatever. So it's always something that I love so much about performing live is like coming out and surprising people. And it's like loud and nobody's paying attention. And then just suddenly you're standing in front of someone and you're like exposing your shoulder to them. And it's like, whoa, a shoulder. Like you're not going to like surprise someone who's coming to your Instagram page to join your live. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know, Foxy, what do you think?
I agree 100%. It's really hard. I think it's so much better performing for a live crowd. That is the entire purpose of doing a burlesque show. It is always in front of a live audience. And so transitioning to doing things online is necessary and it feels good for the moment. But as soon as that camera is off, as soon as that Zoom call, you're like, oh my God, this shit is so hard. And you have to clean up in your own damn house. There's no kitchen, there's nobody there. You are your everything. You're your stage manager, you're your light, you're your props, you are everything. I find it actually a lot more exhausting, and it takes me like a day to recover. Yeah.
Do you think that though once the pandemic is over, though, that since you guys have kind of had to adapt to this, like you said, being your own producer, being your own like sound person, being your own stage manager, do you think that once the pandemic is kind of calmed down and we go back to like our new normal, do you think that you'll have like more of an appreciation or like, I don't know, more control over things since, being in the pandemic, you have had to kind of do more than just be a performer?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've learned a lot of stuff, I've learned a lot of stuff or relearned a lot of stuff. Like I like editing my own videos for sending pre-recorded acts. Like it's definitely shifted the way that I think about making an act even. And as far as like surviving past, it's made me, I'm developing something that can only be seen online, because I'm like, when am I going to want to sit on somebody's lap again? That sounds terrifying. So it definitely is like flexing that muscle. Like I'm editing a video versus like sitting in an edit bay crying, like asking someone else to do it for me. You know what I mean? Like I just kind of have to do it. So in that way, it is good, but it is also like that much harder on those days when like you just do not have the energy. Do you know what I mean? So then it's like, so then if I can't do it because I have to do everything, then like nobody's going to do it. Like then nothing is going to get done.
What would you say? Obviously, you guys are finding like some new challenges in between like the virtual and then the in-person world. I'm just wondering, like in general, what makes a successful act? I know that can be super subjective, so I would love to hear from both of you on what you think makes a great performance.
Ooh, Foxy, you go first, and you talk about an Uncle Freak act.
Oh, yes, please. I don't know what that is, but that sounds exactly like what I want to hear.
Well, Uncle Freak is when I play a drag king.
Oh, okay.
And I think what makes a good act? Are you saying what makes a good act in person or online?
Honestly, I would just say like honestly, whatever you think like is the most engaging. Obviously, the online virtual experience you've clearly said is more challenging in terms of production value and then generally like having a connection with the audience. So maybe just like an in-person one. What do you think makes an in-person act more successful than others?
For me, honestly, and I think I speak for a lot of performers, it's rehearsals. Just rehearsing in your room, rehearsing any space you can find. And when I don't rehearse, my acts suffer as a result. I can see it when it's played back on video, and I can tell. I mean, I already know the reason why that act was shitty was because I didn't rehearse. Because it doesn't matter how many times you know the song or how many times you know the act. It doesn't matter how many times you've performed it. You hold it to memory, but when it comes to practicing with your body, especially now when we're so confined, every time I have to do an act, and with small spaces in New York City, it's like, okay, I'm going to stretch in this little part of my apartment and I'm going to set up here. And it messes with your act. So online, it's very difficult, I think, for everyone. In person, it's easier because, you know, you have tech time, you can look at the stage, you can have somebody let you know what's going on. But
so there's choreography.
There's choreography involved, but choreography combined with rehearsing, you know, so I separate the two, because you can do choreography anywhere, but rehearsing is like rehearsing an entire act. It's only like 4 minutes long, maybe 6, but you're rehearsing that over and over again until you perfect it. So I think that's what makes a good act: consistency and a lot of rehearsal.
All right, Alicia.
For me, I feel like what I'm about to make this about myself, because I guess that's my energy. But for me, what a good act is like what feels really good to me. Our what is it? Our burlesque mother? I'm not sure what we would call her. The way that Foxy and I met was through this mother. Yes. Okay. So our burlesque mother, she would always say, like, before a gig or whatever, just remind you, like, you're doing this for you. Like, you're going on the stage, you're telling the story, you're doing this thing with your body for you. If you don't get off doing that, then you're wasting your time, you're wasting everybody else's time. So for me, like, what makes an act good is when I feel like I've gotten off, when I feel like I made that connection. And I feel like a lot of times, like, my acts are really silly. My acts are really ignorant. Like, yes, I'm fully taking my clothes off, but I'm like also eating a Lunchable. Like, for me, like, I love to give like a confusing boner to someone. Do you know what I mean? They're like, that was hot, but like, what the fuck? Like, why was ASMR involved? And why was she eating a Whopper? Like, I really like to just like be confusing. And I think also a lot of my acts personally are love letters to myself, like the song or the mood or the message behind it is always like coming from a self-love place, because that was how and why I found burlesque. I was in a really dark place. And it was something that I just kind of did on a whim, and it made me feel so good. And so I kind of like to hold it as a ritual, act of self-love. And I often, include other like witchy elements to it even, but it's always like, I feel like I did a good job if I feel like I connected. And and it's the same thing, like rehearsal, that time of taking the time before you get on the stage, of like back when we could do it, we would stand in a circle and like hold hands and like look in each other's eyes and like connect. And I've noticed the acts, I feel like disappointed in myself afterwards. It's like, well, girl, you just ran up there and you were out of breath when you started, and you were not ready, and you were not grounded, and you were not centered, and you didn't pray. And now you're like, well, that felt weird. Like, of course it felt weird. You went up there a mess. So I think for me personally, whatever makes a good act is like taking a second and like breathing and coming with intention. You know, we're trying to tell this story. So I think so long as like you're carrying that intention and that message is getting across, whether people understand why I'm eating the Lunchable or not, like, you know, I think that's what makes a good act, the intention.
Hell yeah. I'm sorry I missed that adult Lunchable. That's so dope.
It was very silly.
So obviously it's not, it seems like obviously it is subjective, and it can be funny, it can be provocative, or it can be a balance between the two. But it seems like what you're both saying is you connect to burlesque on individual levels, and it means something different to both of you, which I think is amazing. So I guess that was kind of just one of my questions. I just wanted to understand, like, you know, from somebody who's never done it myself, like how you even, you know, brought yourself up into those roles and challenged yourself in that way to perform in front of people. Because I think that takes a lot, like courage. And obviously, like if you're performing in front of a bunch of people and, you know, there is some sort of provocative nature to it, like that takes a bunch of courage and a lot of confidence. So I just commend you both on that for sure.
Oh, it's very fun, truly. Like we're kind of sitting here like intellectualizing it a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's really fun. And I think going back to what Foxy was saying about how when you close your phone or you close the Zoom, you're just kind of like sitting there in this like pile of clothes you just took off. Like so much of burlesque for me was the experience like with people, like afterwards, like now we all get to sit in this like magical energy that all of these performers brought to the space. And so then when it's just you, it's kind of like sitting here like, I don't know, did I do a good job? Great. Now I have to vacuum because I use confetti. Like all of these other things come into it.
Back to reality.
Right. But at the end of the day, like I think like we all are doing this because it's fun and because it's an outlet that we need, an outlet that I had no idea that I needed until I discovered it, type thing. You know what I mean? And
I wanted to add that when you do burlesque, a lot of people who take burlesque classes, if you're able to do that, because there's not that many of them in the city to begin with. But I took it because I was having body dysmorphic issues. I had just given birth a year prior. No, what am I talking about? My kid was a toddler. But I was having issues, and my daughter was like 3-4 years old at the time. I was having a lot of anxiety about how my body had changed. And it was just interesting. Somebody says, why don't you take a burlesque class? Because I loved going to burlesque. At the time, there was a really dope place in Williamsburg called Galapagos Art Space. And that was my introduction to burlesque. But it's not about, I usually say it's not about confidence, because I was the most prude person you could ever meet. I'd never even worn a bikini until maybe 7 years ago. So I was a person who was very conscious of my body and not showing it. And what you learn from burlesque, any burlesque class you take, it's about accepting yourself and accepting who you are. And even though you don't accept yourself, because we are our own worst critics, burlesque gives you an inner confidence and protection over your body, your body autonomy, that nobody else can tell you shit when you're on that stage for 5 minutes performing. You're owning it regardless of what size you are, what you look like, your nationality, it doesn't matter. And burlesque did that for me. So I went from like clothes on all the time to taking shit off stage. It was the best decision I ever made.
I fucking love that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So I think you kind of answered my next question was going to be, what is essentially putting yourself on stage taught you, either about like the audience or about yourself, but I think you kind of answered that in a way, like by describing your experience going to that burlesque class. Alicia, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I feel like my answer also lies in that literal same burlesque class. That's where Foxy and I met, and I took it very much on a whim, like I said, because I was in like a dark place. The first class I took with the same woman was just like a one-off workshop that was equal parts like yoga, burlesque, and meditation. Mm-hmm. So it was very much like a tiptoe into burlesque, right? And so then I wanted to do more with her because I had such a great time that day. And I found this class was kind of like a burlesque crash course. And I was like, I just like want to feel not shitty about myself. So I'm going to go, but like, I'm not going to be a burlesque performer. Like, certainly not.
Oh my God, yes.
And then just really like fell in love with the idea of, because like the whole point of this workshop, right, it's called Broad Squad Institute. I'll go ahead and plug them in case you haven't already done that. It's called Broad Squad Institute. It's put on through the same women who are part of Brown Girls Burlesque, which is like the only Black and brown burlesque troupe in New York, basically. Anyways, so I went to this workshop, and the whole point of it was to like find your inner goddess and name her and put her on a stage and put her in clothes that make her feel good and have her highlight whatever parts of her body that she loves. And going on this journey made me like sit, like the cheesy, like you go to a workshop or something and there's like the cheesy questions you're supposed to answer and like sit with, but like actually doing that work of like, okay, I'm going to like sit in front of a mirror and like look at myself and talk to myself and tell myself like what I love about myself or whatever, kind of opened that thing of like, yes, I can name my inner goddess, this like stage performance energy or whatever, but sitting with the lessons of it being like, oh, but bitch, at the end of the day, that is me as well, and kind of like remembering to be able to tap into that energy. I think as well, part of it for me was like letting go of stuff. I think that's also part of like what attracts me to the bare bones of what burlesque is I'm coming up with all of this shit. I'm standing in front of you with all of this shit, but I'm going to like have a purpose for taking it all off and like coming in like renewed or like bare or innocent to the situation. I think like that ritual act is something that has mirrored like in my spiritual like witchy life as well. And I really I don't know, I guess I have burlesque to thank for like realizing that connection or whatever.
So do you think that every time you perform, do you feel that way? Like you're letting go of something, like that you're releasing something every single time you perform?
I think that goes back to like what makes a good act. When it's a good act and I'm present and I'm there and I'm taking the time to breathe and have the intention behind it, because that to me is the intention behind it that I'm bringing to the table, is I have something that I'm releasing here. Like, especially when we were doing weekly shows in person, that was like very much pushing me to have a different song every time, have a different intention. weekly, and it would just be like, okay, well, this act is like fully a sub tweet to like this bitch over here, but that's what I need to let go of. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Also, La Pobresita gives excellent freaking eye contact, which is I usually look at people's heads when I'm performing. I hate eye contact, but La Pobresita has that knack to sort of like, she has that presence that when she performs, she gives, you're like, wait, she's looking at me? Oh my God, let me look at you. I've seen so many, and it's fantastic. And that also is another great thing, to be able to engage with the crowd. Like, a lot of burlesque performers are actually introverts. That's been my experience. I'm one. But when we're on stage, it's like, you know, all these people are there to see you and to experience you, but you're not there for them. You might be in that way, you're there for yourself.
Right. And I think that's what people get like so confused with burlesque also, is like, yes, I am stripping. This is the act of stripping. You're totally correct. And I'm not saying that stripping is for the customers either. I'm sure a lot of the girls on poles are doing that for themselves as well. But certainly with burlesque, it's like, oh, no. This is for me. Like, I'm over here. You cannot touch. You know what I mean? And it's always like it's always so funny to us, like, when that we have had to, before a show, remind the audience of that. Of like, consent. Just so you know, like, yes, we're taking off our clothes. Yes, but you can't just be grabbing us. Like, there was. I
was going to ask about that.
Yeah, people just like think like, because I understand like we're all drinking, we all having a good time, and now this like gorgeous black body is in front of you and you want to honk on it, but like you may not. And there was like
you may not.
One show that we had. You may not. Like, we had this one show where I picked up Foxy, and I'm like, well, Uncle Freak at the time, actually. I picked up Uncle Freak, and I'm, you know, in like pasties and underwear and like platforms, and I'm carrying Uncle Freak out of the room, and this like white lady smacked my ass. Yeah. And I was like, Miss, like, even if that was appropriate, like when I'm carrying another.
And she did not drop me. She did not drop me. I was like waiting to be on the floor. But
like, in these shoes, miss, in these shoes, I'm already being precarious. Anyway.
So people get a little aggressive after a few drinks, huh?
Yeah. People love to assume.
Yeah, that's
that
true.
It is for them. But it is not.
I was going to say, what's the New York scene like? Like, is it touristy though? Do you guys get a bunch of like people just, I mean, obviously pre-pandemic times, but like people just rolling through, checking it out? Like they looked it up on Yelp, like things to do in New York? Or is it more something that you guys have regulars? Obviously there is a few misbehaviors there in the mix, but.
That hasn't happened often, but it has happened. And we don't really, it depends on the venue, number one, the venue, the location. And we had like a Monday night. So a Monday night is a very hard night to get foot traffic. And even harder if the area in which your show is based doesn't have a lot of foot traffic. So it depends. We advertise mostly online. I would love to be in things to do in New York. I would love it because I've listened to them enough times. I'm tired, but you know, like Time Out, these publications, honestly, I'm like, y'all are not trying to list Black queer shows. This is what it looks like to me. And so, because after enough times, you're like, wait, how can someone who just started after me advertising a show, got a show on and got advertised for a wider audience, and we didn't? It's something we've honored with a lot, you know. But anyway,
that was a genuine let it out.
Yeah, but we advertise mostly online, and I feel like I'm answering that question and diverting. Am I diverting?
I think so. I think you're bringing attention to the fact that these people who are running these, you know, media conglomerates and like print and online, they need to be featuring you guys more. So that's good to know. Let's get their attention.
the more you're featured, unfortunately, by these well-recognized institutions, whether it be online or on print, the fact is, the more, customers and patrons you get. And we're an excellent show. We're an excellent show. There's no reason why it should not be packed. But we've kept it going for over a year. So
yeah. I think in also answering your question, when we would have people that like didn't know what they were walking into, I feel like it would either go one of two ways. It would either be like, holy shit, I just walked into like the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like, what?
Hell yeah.
There's like, because also our show, like, we talk about the news, we feature a comic, we have drag kings, which a lot of shows have queens but no kings, so we just have kings. And we have burlesque, and it's like always a beautiful time, And we're often in 420 friendly spaces, so then people come in, they're like, people are smoking weed and there's titties over there. What the fuck? Like, people are like,
honestly, destination zone. Don't know why you guys aren't getting recommended more.
So it's like people will either walk in, they'll be like, oh my God, like, sign me up. Or it'll be like somebody has like stumbled in very drunk. And it's like, okay, someone needs to come get Theo. Like, he's over here, he's doing too much. Somebody's uncle is doing too much. Fox, do you remember that one drunk guy that kept coming to the show? He stumbled in on accident one night. I swear to God, he had to have like worked somewhere in the neighborhood. And then he would just stumble in drunk afterwards until finally, like, we roasted him so bad he didn't come back. But it would be...
Yeah, and that's the other thing, I think, because we don't have a lot of foot traffic, people who did come across the show ended up being our regular customers, right, La Pobresita?
Right, totally,
like, totally. They kept coming back over and over again, and they really did their best to help promote. But yeah, it was interesting because a lot of the folks who come every single Monday are folks who've been loyal to the show and still are, even online.
My question, and you guys were kind of getting into it, but I'm going to let you guys really dive deep into it. So I don't know too much about the burlesque scene, and I know it's kind of connected with the drag scene in a lot of ways. And I do know a bit about the drag scene. And one thing that I know that they've been struggling with a lot is kind of like the situation where there is a divide and lack of representation of colored people. And I mean, I'm going to ask you, this is the same in the burlesque world. I'm sure it is. But is it a thing? And like, how do you guys deal with that? Because I know, like I know in Chicago, there's been like, what did they call it? They have like a Black girls drag show, which
Black Girl Magic.
Yes, Black Girl Magic. And, you know, that was all inspired because they weren't getting the representation. And I know that that's kind of like what you guys have had to do. So can you guys kind of like explain that to us?
No, I think that definitely came from the place of, or that is exactly why our show exists. As a non-white person, to be booked on a show that pretty much isn't our show, you're going to be the one of the only non-white people on the cast. And it's just all of the like microaggressions that come with that, right? Like, my name is La Pobresita. It's a name it's a Spanish word. And then, you know, you come in and you explain it to somebody, they're like, no, you need to give me a nickname or something. I'm not going to call you that. And it's like, no, like, I'm taking the time
Has
to
somebody
figure
said
out whatever
that?
your tongue. Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my God.
And it's like, no, like, I took the time to figure out like whatever tongue twister pun basic shit your name is. You can figure out how to make your lips say Pobresita. If you can't say Timothy Chalamet, like, I don't know what you want from me. But so that's the thing that like we're going up against, or like the lighting is off, or it's just you, or it's you're the one Black person in this all white cast in like a heavy metal bar, and it's like, what am I doing here? So I think that's definitely like where our show has come from. And also I think Foxy can speak more to this. As much as there isn't very much representation for Black and brown burlesque bodies, there's even less representation for Black and brown drag kings. Nobody's trying to book a king.
Yes.
Why do you think that is? What's happening here?
Well, drag kings have existed as long as drag queens have, but drag kings are not taken seriously. And when you have the most prolific drag queen in the entire world tell folks on national television that drag kings are not good fit for RuPaul, you're already sending a message to a whole bunch of producers, a whole bunch of venues that these people aren't that interesting to look at, basically, and not that interesting to book. To be a drag king is to make, anatomical or performative theatrical fun of men or masculinity, because gender is not relevant to being a drag king or a drag person or a drag artist. But drag kings specifically who represent masculine mannerisms when they perform are often not booked. You maybe see one drag king being booked per show. I recently got booked for a show and I was the only drag king and it was 4 white queens. And I did honestly feel odd about it. I ended up not doing the gig for other reasons. But I remember thinking, I am outnumbered here. And I can't relate to a single person here because they're white and they're cis, gay. And I wish more. I've only done maybe 1 or 2 shows where they've booked kings. Kings are not seen to have as much value to venues money-wise when it comes to bringing in a crowd. And that's also not true. There's an amazing documentary called Venus Boys. And it's a documentary that was done in the 90s by Mildred Dredd, who was a drag king, amazing drag king. And they just passed away. And I was surprised that it wasn't, people didn't make, it wasn't as much of a big deal. This was a pioneer drag king in the 90s of Haitian descent. So, and I remember a lot of people said that she was disheartened because even though she was one of the most popular drag kings in New York City, she hardly ever got booked. And that was like late 90s, early 2000s, So anyway.
That's really, really interesting. And I didn't know that happened with RuPaul. So that makes me look at that a little differently. That's really frustrating, especially for somebody who has such a platform. I would think that they would project differently. And I find it kind of ironic that he is open to different kinds of people on the show, but then draws a line in the sand at another part, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's truly the same thing as him being like, to be trans is to be taking steroids at the Olympics. You know what I mean? Like, it's really unfortunate to me as someone who likes Drag Race and watches Drag Race. It's really disappointing to me for the person who has the largest platform that drag has ever had to belittle so many important parts of what drag is, to belittle the impact that so many people in the community have had, trans people, drag kings, non-binary folks. Like it really bums me out. And
right, it seems like gatekeeping. We've talked a little bit about gatekeeping in here. Yeah, it just seems like it's so messy, and I don't know. It just seems kind of like, oh, you can't sit with us,
Yeah. And you just said it. It's gatekeeping. And I always say this backstage. I said, just because somebody is gay and just because somebody identifies as queer, Black, POC, however they identify, misogyny is alive and well in drag and burlesque.
Fully. Oh my God,
so
fully.
It's hard because the queens think they can touch you because you're like, hey girl, like I'm like, that's the other thing. I don't like that shit. Just because we're in the same dressing room, anatomically we look different, and I don't want you to touch me. And that is a thing because I can change in a room full of anybody, regardless of your gender, regardless of your body anatomy, but I don't want you to fucking touch me.
Yeah,
I don't do anyone else. And that happens a lot in certain dressing rooms that I've been in, which is why I tend to just go in costume. So I don't have to change with anybody.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. That's kind of, you're highlighting something that I kind of wanted to dig into, which was really like talking about the underbelly of culture of burlesque, because like every niche community, right, has has like a little debatable topic within its group. And, you know, I think that we've all talked about, you know, obviously we've learned a lot about burlesque itself, but you too, I feel like you have the tea on the behind the scenes, right? And I think you've told me a little bit about, you know, with RuPaul and the gatekeeping. So I would love to hear more. Like, can you educate us more on, you know, what you guys are experiencing firsthand in the culture?
I feel like a lot of the things that I've been experiencing within the culture of burlesque is like the same things that that like a queer Black body experiences in life. And it's just it's that much more frustrating to experience, like Foxy said, like in the intimacy of a dressing room when you feel like you're going to be safe. Like somebody commenting on, like, especially if it is like you're booked on the show when it's like nothing but white girls doing like feather and gowns burlesque, which is like very like ooh la la, like traditional, like, and then it's like me standing there with like my hairy armpits and like IKEA bags that I sewn together to make like a fake hazmat suit, and it's like and it's like
costume.
But there's like all of these like little microaggressions on the path to even getting on the stage. I feel like that's a lot of like what the tea is all of the things that particularly Black and brown people have to do backstage before you can even get on the stage. Like somebody saying something shady about your name, or somebody being like, oh, I need to borrow makeup, obviously not from you, like whatever little,
excuse me?
Whatever, bitch, I don't know your skin, you're not putting like that was not an option anyway. But you know what I'm saying? Like all these like little things that you go through being booked less, or be dealing with like the fact that what I will say is like I think what a lot of venue owners, managers, what have you, forget, especially men, especially cis het white men, or not even white men because he was Black.
Yeah,
a lot of like cis hetero men forget the fact that like like we're all here to make a show. We're all here. Someone is paying us to be here to have a good time. They're paying you for the drinks and they're paying me for the ass, not the titties, because they're small. You know, at the end of the day, everybody's paying us to have a good time. So if something goes wrong backstage or behind the scenes, or somebody booked wrong, or something needs to be communicated, if you are coming to me yelling at me as a man, and it's like me, it's two women standing here fully naked, or like, I'm sorry, I have a thong on, and you're yelling at me about a light or a time, or you need to hurry up, or you need to do this, you need to do that, or because you own the place, you've been sitting at the bar doing nothing but drink, and now you're coming over to me to yell because somebody else told you something that was incorrect. Like at the end of the day, you're like a large man standing here yelling at two women who don't have any clothes on. You know what I mean? And I think what a lot of we come up against as two women who maybe seem unintimidating, who seem whatever you want to assume on us. Foxy's like not very tall. I'm tall, but like obviously fully a noodle. Like like you're coming over assuming that you can do whatever you want to us. You can say whatever you want to us. You understand that we're standing here in a vulnerable position, and you can come at us with whatever kind of energy you want, whether it's somebody who's been overserved at the show and they're just a patron and they're doing too much. Or I feel like what happens more so is people behind the scenes, people who are in charge, talking to us all kinds of crazy because they're drunk, or because they think they're right or whatever. And it's like, you need to calm down. You need to calm down. And I wrote this specific event, which I'm talking very loosely about. I wrote this long ass email. Like I took this long ass time to write an email after the fact. Like, sir, especially in a pandemic, we're coming to your establishment to do an illegal show to only benefit you. And you're going to talk to me crazy while I'm standing here naked. Like you bugging the fuck out. So I'm like writing an email in a calm way of like, here's the way that you can conduct your illegal shows in a way that isn't stressful to everybody. And it's just like, met on deaf ears. And I think that we've had that issue with more than one venue since the pandemic, of like these people who are in charge. Again, I guess it is kind of gatekeeping in a way, but it's these people who like think that they have the right to you, and maybe think that they have more of a right to you because they see that you're naked. So they're associating that, whether consciously or not, to you being vulnerable. And so they think that they can talk to you any kind of way. They think that they can tell you your show's over, get the fuck out of here, like hurry up and get your shit. Like, baby, like that's not how this works.
Yeah.
You know? And I think too, also because our crowd is queer and Black or brown or like someone's white friend, like, then we're coming in to them also as vulnerable because they think that our crowd has less value because our crowd looks just as weird as we do, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's my tea.
I just think, you guys were talking about how being performers and being people of color is a different experience, but it just made me think like, this whole idea of if you're not a cis white person, coming into a space that's not your own, you have to be essentially, you have to be better than them. You have to be smarter than them. You have to be
fully
all of these things to, just be on the same level as a white performer. I feel like, you have to be more witty. You have to be more clever, more sexy. And it's just like, at some point it's like I want to be my own self sometimes. And, you can't be like that. You have to turn your persona to like even a more extreme level because you have to get on that white cis level. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, it just makes you guys better performers in general because,
it does. It does, but it's also exhausting to have that expectation.
It is.
You know what I mean?
It's fucking exhausting.
Because it's like, and then it's like, okay, so say the example that I gave before where the manager, the bar manager or the owner or whatever is coming into the dressing room yelling at all of the girls, right? I'm a protective person. I'm going to be the one that stands forward and is like, you can't be talking to us like that. But now the visual is different. It's the only non-white person standing in between everyone else, being loud, saying no, da da da. So then there's that other level of like, oh, well, I don't know if we should book her because she was like very aggressive. Was I aggressive or was I standing up for what was right for us as a community?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it's also a little bit of that too, of like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't in a way of like, well, you're not going to talk to me crazy. And I'm going to tell you that you're not going to talk to me crazy. But now I seem crazy because I said that you can't talk to me crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There's an expectation to make us feel and act small.
Yes.
To not express ourselves or to just, you should be grateful that you're getting this piece of that potato ass pie.
Yeah, you should be grateful that we even booked you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is the mentality we get a lot of the time. But, good thing is La Pobresita and I are of the same temperament, which is we don't take any shit from anybody.
Hell yeah.
But have we had to sort of, especially if a show is happening and something happens and then you realize that the venue's probably shit, do we carry on the show or do we stop it? We finish the show and then we're like, we're not coming back to this bullshit place. Because at the end of the day, we're professionals and we know why we're there. And our intentions were pure. But our integrity also suffers if we continue to do a show just because there's a space with folks still fucking disrespecting us. And that's 100%. That's really hard. Another thing is we really want to always find Black-owned queer spaces, and it turns out two different places we thought were Black and queer owned turned out to not be Black and queer owned, And it was so devastating that, you know, we thought we were in a space that was what we thought it was, and it wasn't, but we still made it work, you know? And I think also the idea of Black folks being fucking trendy now is the other thing. And people booking a lot of Black shows because they want to attract a Black demographic. I think that's a problem as well.
Yeah.
Because you see, you know, go as fast as the Vogue went, you know, like in and out. And but that's how I feel. It's like, oh, you guys did an article in this, or I saw you go, someone told you, oh, why don't you come to a show at our place? But clearly they're just using us for customers. You know, they're not really interested in our show or what we do.
I feel like we saw that a lot, like when the protests were happening around George Floyd. I feel like a lot of like the drag and burlesque community, all of the Black and brown girls saw a lot of support. A lot of people were getting Venmos from random friends they forgot about. The show we made more because we're a fundraiser show.
Yeah.
We've been fun when we've been digital, we've been fundraising for a different Black or brown trans or non-binary person's pockets directly. We're doing this for this person or this organization who are putting money into our community's pockets. Yeah. And so the week that all of these like new people waking up for the first time in their life, we got a crazy amount of donations.
We got like 60 people. It was crazy. I think we raised
more people we've ever had on the Zoom, more money than we've ever had to donate. The next week it was maybe a third of that. The next week it was like, oh bitch, we made like we got $20 donated. Like
wow.
It was just like, oh, this isn't coming up on my feed anymore. People aren't protesting. We're like back to drinking boba and like posting aesthetic. Like it was like, oh shit. I'm glad we got to give that one bitch mad money, but everybody else, like, so sorry.
And the folks that had been with us from the very beginning, of course, stayed on, but it was curious to see how during the protests that like those 2 weeks were our most fruitful weeks, 2 to 3 Fridays. It was really crazy to me, but I knew as soon as things died down, we wouldn't see half of those people ever again. It felt performative. Thank you for your money, but you're really doing it out of your fucking white guilt. Let's be clear. And not everybody did that, but a big chunk of them did. That's a fact. It's really interesting because I'm like, how can someone else's trauma be trendy? But it's what it felt like.
I mean, that's the new thing, though. I mean, with everything, with Instagram, with TikTok, and it's like, you know, I mean, even with the election, it's just like the next trend or something to talk about. People jump on, and as soon as that's over, you know, it'll be something else, and fuck whatever was before that.
Yeah, it is. We are flawed humans. We're human beings who are propelled by how many likes you've got or how many followers you have or how many people posted about something, whatever the fuck. We are so enamored with these things, and unfortunately we do need them to carry on our day-to-day lives. We're a perfect example of folks who use social media all the time.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know. It's hard to find a balance, I feel. I don't know. We try, we do our best.
So if you guys could say something directly to our audience or something that you want to have them take away from this interview, what do you think that would be?
I think the takeaway should be that performative art forms are not just, you know, it's not just what is mainstream, and that if people want to learn about burlesque, there are people out there, especially if you're Black and queer, general BIPOC population, and want to know more about body acceptance and what burlesque is, especially in the Black community, which it has a rich history of burlesque, starting with Josephine Baker 50 so years ago. It would behoove people to just go online and just Google burlesque, drag, Black performers. And those of you who remember our show, they can go and follow us on Instagram, and they can find a lot of information, not just about what we do, but each show we highlight each performer every week. So what we do is we'll have like a page, like a screen, like a post about that performer, and they're oftentimes Black, queer, trans, POC folks, and that the body is not to be shameful, especially in our community where we have been taught, we are sort of seen as, especially young Black girls by the age of 9, they're already being sexualized, but the same is not happening to white girls across the country. So we already have this idea that the body is shameful, that the body should be always covered. And that may be for necessary purposes, but when people are performing that way, it's not, everything is a vice. Taking off your clothes is a vice. Smoking is a vice. Drinking is a vice. You pick your vice, but you don't vilify something you're not familiar with. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of folks should understand that we're not trying to be scandalous. We're not trying to ruffle feathers. And it takes seeing a show to understand that you not only learn about your body, accepting yourself, you also learn about a lot of socio-economic issues. We talk about political issues, issues regarding the Black community, regarding race, police brutality. I feel like we're all encompassing. When we don't just do pretty performances, we also do very socially conscious performances.
So yeah, I think you said like you don't want to ruffle any feathers, and but you said like you do like to talk about political things, and you do like to, give people a message. So, is it safe to say like you guys do want to like ruffle feathers in a way, but like in a positive way? I think all that stuff is important and it needs to be talked about.
For me personally, what I want to do is like not necessarily ruffle feather, or no. I guess what it is like if you think that your feathers are ruffled, then like you need to get a grip. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Or you need to figure out why that is. Right.
And so, yeah, if what I'm doing and if what I'm saying, if me speaking the truth about my experience, the experience of my trans sisters, my trans brothers, my whatever the fuck it is that we're talking about, because I feel like that's really the only things we talk about, like things that happen to Black and brown bodies, things that happen to trans and non-binary bodies, and that's pretty much it. And that will ruffle a feather. And if that ruffles your feathers, then like go ahead. If like my nickel-sized areolas stress you out, then please may they stress you out, because I don't understand. Because like if that is the thing that's causing you anxiety, then you're welcome, because these are gorgeous, Yeah. And I feel like that has been something that we've kind of both dealt with, is like maybe people in our life who will come across a burlesque page and they'll be like, oh my God, like, are you doing porn? And it's like, bitch, I wish the money's better. Like, what? I don't understand. Like, if this is something that you want to be upset about, then please go ahead and be upset about it. But I feel like if whoever's feathers are being ruffled, if they were to stop and really absorb the message outside of the areola or like the thong, then maybe the feathers wouldn't have been ruffled. Or maybe it's good to know that your feathers were ruffled, and I can readjust like your position in my top 8 accordingly, because your views ain't it for me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't set out with the intention, like in my mind, I'm like, we're not here to ruffle any feathers. We're not here. And like La Pobresita said, if it bothers you that much, there's more digging deeper that you need to do for yourself.
I agree with that.
People have been offended by it. But we're talking about things that actually affect our community. I'm not sure why a lot of people avoid these topics, but they're important,
Because it's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. So they're going to be uncomfortable, but we're okay with that discomfort because we let you know what the show is about. So when people come, we don't expect surprise. We expect them to maybe understand that this is a little different than what you're used to. You can be entertained, but you can also learn something. And we're also learning in the process because it requires research between La Pobresita and myself about news topics around the world, not just in America, that are affecting Black and brown people. Because I think a lot of people, we like to sort of hold court to what's just in our own backyards. And we forget that there's Black and brown people around the world who are experiencing the exact same things you're experiencing here. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Look, I think I agree with that completely. And I was talking to somebody about that same thing with like theater where, it's great to go to a show and be entertained and have a good time. But I think it's hard, and especially for white cis people, to be in a situation where they are challenged or feel uncomfortable, or you're out of your comfort zone, and a lot of people don't like that. And I mean, for me, I love going to a show where it's uncomfortable, where I leave questioning things that I've been taught. I like to be challenged. And I mean, I guess not everybody's like that, but I think that, especially cis straight white people need to be challenged more, need to be exposed to different things. So I think that's great that you guys are doing that. I think it's important.
I feel like we kind of have no choice but to, you know what I mean? Like when Foxy and I met like a little over a year ago to talk about the show, it was just kind of like, well, these are things that we both like to talk about. Like, we should just talk about them, right? Like it's things that affect us.
At the end of the day, people don't understand, you may be uncomfortable for 5 minutes, but bitch, we have to live this. Like,
right. And yep. I think especially like in a community when we're often like surrounded by so many white people.
Yes.
But I just feel like, like you were saying, like I live this shit. You know what I mean? Like I was adopted by a white woman and she just doesn't understand. Like text me earlier, like, yeah, currently as we're speaking, the election results are coming in or whatever the fuck. And she was just like, I remember the last election you felt stressed. Are you okay? Like, mama, like it's not something that we as Black and brown people can clock in and out to. Yeah. So especially if I have a show, if I have a platform, if this is my voice, if this is what I'm talking about, I'm going to talk about my fucking truth. And my fucking truth is me existing in this body and the impact of white supremacy on me existing in this body, and the ability to draw the parallels to, hey, whoa, that's bonkers. It's not just me in this black and brown body or whatever the fuck experiencing this shit. It's people globally. So we really have no choice but to talk about it. I feel like a lot of Black artists deal with that. Like artists and activists. Like, are you an artist and activist, or are you just, this is your art because this is what you have to deal with? Like, I feel like I was going to draw a very bonkers comparison, so I'm not going to do it.
Please do. We'll edit it out if you don't want it in.
Okay, great. But I'm just saying, like, Nina Simone is writing like blood on the leaves, like not because like she's like, oh, let me think of this like deep connection that I can make with like Black pain in a way that people will understand. No, that's mama's truth. That's what was going on. People were like swinging from the fucking trees. That's the song that's in her heart because that's what her eyes see on this plane. You know what I mean? Yes. So I think it's so like wild to be like, oh my God, like she's really political. Like, am I, or am I just saying like, yo, this
is my
shit I
fucking
just saw
life
down the block was bonkers. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm saying bonkers comparison because I'm not comparing myself to Nina Simone.
Oh,
You know?
I thought you. Yeah.
No, but I get it. I get it.
I'm not being like me and Nina Simone over here.
One of the same.
Right. That's not my point. I'm just saying, like, and maybe she did want to bring it up on purpose. I'm just saying. Anyway.
Oh, God. Well, I think we've all gotten a really good, opportunity to, learn from each other, I think, in this moment. Is there anything that you two would like to promote tonight for our listeners that are tuning in? I know you have a few virtual shows that you're doing. Let us know where we can find you. If you have any Instagrams that you want to plug or any charity organizations where we can, make donations, our listeners can make donations. I'm sure we would love to amplify that for you.
I feel like we're both doing we're on a brief hiatus from Mad Deep.
Both exhausted.
We're both exhausted because we've been literally producing since the first week of quarantine. We were done. I tend to post all my shows on my Instagram, so folks can follow me at Foxy Belle Afriq. That's FoxyBelleAfriq, or Uncle Freak 2020. That's Uncle Freak 2020. I wish you could have voted for me, but whatever.
I would have. You guys, I don't know if you've seen the Uncle Freak act, but
yes,
I would love
to. Uncle Freak. I love it.
So good.
So good.
Acts. And then, of course, follow us at Mad Deep BK. That's at Mad MAD. DEEP BK on Instagram, and we post regularly what's happening, what each of us are doing separately or together. We'll also highlight a lot of folks who are still fundraising within our community who we're not doing more fundraising for right now. That's it. The best way to say is just if they follow me on Instagram, they can see where they can find me online or live.
Same. I mean, you can follow me on Instagram, La Pobresita Burlesque. I spell Pobresita with the S, if you know how to spell Pobresita. Otherwise, it's LABO. Wait, I can't. Don't make me spell aloud. It's Pobresita. Just Google how to spell Pobresita, but do an S instead of a C, okay? Because I'm not going to be out here spelling aloud. I got out in the first round of the third grade spelling bee. I spelled baggies instead of badges. It's traumatizing for me to spell it loud. Anyway, yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. And you'll see more show things. Yeah.
Well, thank you ladies so much for coming and talking to us tonight. We are going to take a little commercial break, refill our cocktails, and when we return, we will finish the show. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for having us. Y'all are dope.
Oh, so are you. Thank you. I can't wait to see both of your shows.
Oh my God, thank you so much.
We love you. Bye.
Bye.
TipTea is presented by...
Wait, Robert, we don't have any sponsors.
Shit. Well, let's go to plan B. Are you a local business or restaurant located in St. Louis or Chicago that is looking for some promotion?
Does the sound of our voices sound like cash flowing into your bank account?
If you said yes to any of these, then please email us at tipteapod.robert@gmail.com for further info.
Please sponsor us so we don't have to sell our souls to Jenny Craig. All right, welcome back to TipTea Podcast. Robert and I are going to close out the show with our usual pipe and hot recommendations. Robert, do you want to get us started?
All All right. So I have been watching this show called The Undoing. It's on HBO and it is with Nicole Kidman. And holy fucking shit. It's so good. It's so fucking good.
I saw you write about it, I think, on social. So what's it about?
Well, first off, let me just say Nicole Kidman is a fucking goddess. She can do no wrong. She's amazing and everything. So this show, she's a therapist. She is in New York City. She's a therapist. Her husband's like a doctor, and so obviously they have a lot of fucking money. Their son is in like an elite school. It kind of gives me like Big Little Lies vibes. In that like her friends are like a bunch of other wealthy like girlfriends that have children that go to the school. So they're all kind of in like a little social circle. And I don't want to spill the beans, but it's kind of like Big Little Lies. There's like a mystery type thing that happens in the first episode, and there's only been 2 episodes so far. The third episode's coming up this Sunday, so by the time this comes out, it'll be on 3 episodes. But definitely check it out, especially if you like Big Little Lies and stuff like that. It is so fucking good.
Hell yeah. And what was it called again?
The Undoing.
Okay.
And what about you?
Oh, I have a few.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. My first one is actually a show as well. Second season just came out. I don't know if you, Robert, have heard of a show called Pen 15. You spell it out on a piece of paper. It looks like you wrote penis. So it stars Maya Erskine and Anna Konkle, and they basically play 13-year-old renditions of themselves. So these grown women play 13-year-old versions of themselves in middle school. It's like a cringy coming-of-age comedy. I personally identify a lot with Maya's character. She has a very weird, like, mushroom head, toad-looking haircut. And in 6th grade, that was totally my vibe, not on purpose. It just kind of happened that way. And I had a best friend named Emily. And this is totally like, I don't know. It's like looking at, our friendship through a microscope, just really tearing it apart and like looking at the awkward stages of growing up. It's a really easy watch, and season 2's on Hulu now. So there's that. Another hot recommendation. This is just based on, today, but Pornhub, actually, I love that they have been doing, I don't know, they've just been like really keeping with the times. And so I don't know if you heard, but during the first round of quarantine, when things were kind of crazy, they actually were like giving out free memberships to people, like, so they would stay home. So premium memberships, so they would stay home. And then today, they had a pop-up on their website that says, give a fuck, get a fuck campaign. And it's basically, it asks you if you voted before you can enter the site. So we love to see it. I love that.
I'm going on there right now.
Get on there.
Let me see.
It's awesome.
Lord, it's like the straight Pornhub, and I was not ready for that.
Like, no, ma'am.
No fucking ma'am.
So I just stand a brand that is culturally and socially aware and can celebrate all important things like voting. So that's super badass.
No, it doesn't have it. I guess it's over.
Oh, what do you mean? I tried to log into it, and that's the first thing that happened to me today. Not that I start my day out like that or anything. No, I mean, like, I read about it, and then I had to go check it out myself.
Okay, sure.
Anyways, and then my last recommendation. Listen, okay, I tried to take the advice from our friend from the last episode, and maybe I visit that website more often.
Look, self-care, girl. Like, do what you gotta do.
But shout out TNG. Okay, so my last piping hot recommendation, and this is a big one. No matter where you live, you should be supporting local restaurants in your area, whether you are able to dine out on their patios, if it's nice outside, or there's no heightened like CDC regulations in your state. Illinois, unfortunately, does not allow outdoor, does allow outdoor, does not allow indoor. So it's really killing our businesses. But if you can order takeout, if you can dine at the restaurants, wear a mask, or if you can buy gift cards, please, please, please support these businesses. They have a very small margin of profit. And now more than ever, they're being essentially stifled by CDC guidelines and regulations, because it's really the only thing that the government can control, I feel like. So regardless, please support them and help them out in any way that you can.
And to add on to that, if you motherfuckers are going to be getting to-go orders and you are tipping anything less than 20%, do not take out food, because I mean, everybody's kind of fucking suffering. And if you're 20% needs to be the minimal.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely it does. At this point, with how the pay structure of American restaurants is, they make like $2 to $3 an hour. So if you don't tip them, they're not making any money, because most of that money comes out in taxes.
And if you can't tip, then
or whatever,
you don't need to be dining out.
Amen.
Cook in, stay in.
Stay in at home and use your platform for good and tell people who can buy takeout to order takeout.
Yes.
And when I say support local, I don't mean, and I'm sorry to say this, but I don't mean an Applebee's or a Chili's. I mean your local family-owned restaurants. They need you the most.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Well, I think that covers everything. To our listeners, thank you for listening to our sexy voices. If you're a first-time listener and you like what you heard, go ahead and subscribe to our podcast and give us that sexy 5-star rating. Layla, do you want to tell them about any of our platforms that they can follow us on?
Yep, but I definitely crossed out of it, so I have to pull it back. All right, I accidentally logged out of it. All right. So please make sure that you follow TipTea Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and make sure you check out our website, which is www.tipteapodcast.com.
Questions, comments, concerns, you can email us at tipteapod.robert@gmail.com or tipteapod.leilaz, that's LEJLAZ @gmail.com. And I think that covers it. Did I miss anything?
No, I think it was a really, really great episode. And thank you all who went out to vote. We really appreciate you. Thank you for exercising your rights. Let's all hope for a wonderful turnout. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening.
And by wonderful turnout, we mean Trump losing. I wanted to be very specific.
Yeah, in general, him losing and going away forever. But
yes,
one can only hope.
All right. Stay safe out there, folks. And remember, if Biden does not win the election, my ass will be going to Chromatica. Bye.